Welcome back, my little recusants. This is another episode of our Kingdom Hearts 1 Final Mix 100% guide. And this episode is going to be a little different. I'm kind of after taking out the audio because this entire video is going to be at 2x speed, so I just didn't want you guys listening to out of sync audio. And essentially we are going through the Hades Cup all over again, just solo mode as Sora. And the reason why I didn't want to skip over this or the time trial is because these modes are instrumental in us getting a later achievement for collecting all of Donald and Goofy's weapons. And basically we get the weapon for Donald in completing Hades Cup solo mode, and we then get Goofy's shield for beating the times trial challenge. But as you can see in the speed up, it's basically jump and thunder is pretty much the aim of the game here. And for certain battles like with the mushrooms or the toadstools, you can just knock them out of the way and whatnot. But for the rest of the video, I basically just want to go through and just give you guys a little tidbit on my view of my favourite spell, my favourite world, my favourite music, my favourite whatever from the series, just to kind of have some sort of interesting audio while we just zoom along through the next 50 seeds of this tournament. What is interesting though, before I start all of that, is you'll notice that our EXP is diminished because I didn't move all of the EXP boosting accessories off of Goofy and onto Sora. So it's interesting that because Goofy isn't in the party, the multiplier isn't active while we're grinding here, which is pretty neat. But as I say, we're already up to the behemoth, but this is where, especially for the time trial, things can slow down dramatically when trying just to beat up the behemoth or beat up Cerberus and things like that. But I suppose let's start off with characters, and I suppose there's so many different branches of characters. I think it's unfair to just say, oh, my favourite character overall is X, because I think it just leaves out so many other characters that, it's an ensemble cast. But if I were to say my favourite character out of the trio, Sora, Riku and Kairi, I will say Sora has a much better arc, because when you think about Sora being on Destiny Islands, feeling second fiddle to Riku, and barely being able to beat him in the Islander fight because Riku has guard, and Riku has this, and Riku has that. But then when you actually fight him in the Grand Hall, you're able to pretty much destroy him because you have Tinkerbell, you have all these different abilities and spells that Donald and the adventures through the Disneyverse has given you. So the fact that Sora has that overall arc makes him a very interesting character, but I would have to say my favourite character is actually Riku of the trio. My stance on that is probably coloured by the fact that there are later games in the series and whatnot, but even on his own character arc here, he was just a young man that wants to broaden the horizons, see the new world, and really just wants to, find a way to show his friend the world where she came from originally, and just to see the world outside of his own small little island, gain a deeper perspective. But unfortunately, that kind of wavering on who he was as a person, and I suppose the fact that he was wanting to learn so much from the outside but then not really holding firm to his own convictions, led to him being manipulated by Maleficent and falling in with the wrong crowd and ending up turning to the power of darkness and just overall, falling from grace as a character. But as we saw in that little Final Mix extra cutscene, when he is in the realm of darkness, and he's like, listen, I accept the fact that, I might be in the afterlife, this might be the end for me, but at the very least, I just want to see Sora and Kairi one last time to presumably just apologise and just say, I am so sorry for all of this chaos that I have caused. And we can't, like, overlook the fact that, like, Riku has done some heinous things. Like, kidnapping Jasmine out of Agrabah. Like, that's the one thing. Jasmine was literally saved. She was safe and sound, like, saved from Jafar, everything else, and only for Riku's intervention, we would have just had the Princess of Hearts saved. There wouldn't have been the summoning of the final keyhole, etc., etc. But like that kidnapping Pinocchio, like, he's done a lot of bad. But I think even in that moment of him just realizing, oh my god, I don't know the person that I've become, and maybe, I'm beyond forgiveness, but I want to at least offer that apology to my friends and just say, I'm sorry for all that's happened. And maybe there's, because there's that talk from the mystery voice in the ether. I don't think I've necessarily made it a mystery, because I've just blatantly said his voice quite obviously quite often in my reading of the subtitles. But the mystery voice basically says, look, maybe you're here for a reason. Maybe it is destiny. Maybe it is fate, And yeah, like, maybe in a weird way it was all meant to be, and Riku was needed to be on that other side of that door to help in the closing of. Then we can go on to the favourite of the, party members that we have all the time. So between Donald and Goofy, who is my favourite? And as much as I want to say Donald because he's a fellow mage, like, Donald is great, but he, like, betrayed us. He led Goofy away, and it was only for the fact that, Goofy, had that change of heart first. Like, Goofy has been our most loyal friend, and as I say, literally is the one that does call out us in our meddling and, defends Sora when King Triton is, like, saying, oh, like, you're just bringing rules and chaos, you shouldn't be interfering, and, like, Goofy's the only one that speaks out. And it's like, well, I don't think that's necessarily fair. Sora isn't like all that. Sora just wants to help the worlds. So I just think Goofy's our OG. He's also, like, the big, tanky boy with all the HP in the world, and is able to give us MP, he's able to give us HP, and he just is the Beyblade that we all need in mincing through boss fights. So he does damage, he supports, he does it all. So realistically, Goofy is my favourite, and I'm mage enough for the whole party, and Donald is just surplus to requirement. Now listen, does Donald sometimes give clutch heals? Sure, we can give him that. He heals us sometimes. But all I can say is we're going to go on to Chain of Memories. And in that game, you don't necessarily have your party members at your side at all times. You kind of utilize them as cards. You, like, use their effect as, like, a one-time boost or whatever. And let's just say I'm more happy when I pull a Goofy card than when I pull a Donald card, because invariably Donald will cast fire on the enemies that heal from fire. He will cast cure when I'm at full health, or, miss a spell entirely. So, am I carrying on that betrayal from those other games? Yes. Is it probably going to happen when I get to the Chain of Memories playthrough? Yes. And I can circle back to this video and say, you see, this is why Donald didn't make the #1 friend in Kingdom Hearts 1. So there's that. Now, I want to have a separate category for just the Disney party members, aka, like, our guest party members in the other worlds. And it's probably kind of unfair because in this playthrough I've never used them. But, like, in theory we had Tarzan, Aladdin, Jack, and Ariel, and Peter Pan. Those were our friends that we could have had tagging along with us in our, adventure through their worlds. But I was, like, trying to show you all the tree marks and stuff, so then I was like, sorry guys, you have to just stay in the back, we can't use you. But I'll just go through all their different abilities and kind of what their spec was, just to explain, ah yes, well that's what they could have done, and then this is why I choose this one as my favourite. So Tarzan is kind of a mixed bag. He's really the closest you can get to Sora in a character because he has healing magic. He is the first instance of cure in the game. So Tarzan is actually able to cast cure magic before Donald, and is basically one of the reasons why you get cure magic in Deep Jungle. So you might be saying, oh, it's so weird that you get cure after Clayton, but it's like, it actually isn't. Tarzan had cure from the beginning, and so it could be understood that we actually learned that spell from Tarzan and not necessarily any other reason. But anyway, that's Tarzan. Then we have Aladdin, who is really just the hyper damage. She's basically like Goofy. High damage, high crit, a lot of quick succession attacks. So he's just pure DPS. Then you have Jack, who's like Donald. He's just all blizzards, fires, thunders. He's just all magic all the time. And then you have Ariel, who is a bit of both. She has arrow magic, she has cure magic, she has thunder magic, and yet she has basically Goofy Tornado. So she's kind of like a hybrid of both Donald and Goofy, their best aspects combined in one character. And it's for that reason I'm going to have to say that Ariel is my favourite. She legitimately just does the best of both, and you can substitute Goofy with her or Donald with her and you don't feel like you're losing anything because you're getting the defensive buffs and healing of Donald, and you're also getting the high DPS of Goofy, so you're not missing out on either of those things. And it's basically like, what do you kind of want from that situation? And you know, whether it's Ariel and Goofy or Ariel and Donald, you're in a win-win, and you're basically doubling up on one of their things, you know? So next up we might go with favourite spell. It feels cheap to say cure, but like cure is everyone's favourite spell, let's be honest. Like so our favourite spells aside from cure. And I think it has to either go to stop, like as in when I was younger I loved playing with stop. I loved just, you know, being able to attack enemies loads and then just wait for the stop to wear off and then they just go poof and like explode into prize orbs. Like I loved that. So I really enjoyed stop. I don't necessarily use stop that much in this playthrough with like my strategies or whatever. You've seen a bit there with Cloud though. Actually the Cloud fight was a really good example. I like, you know, hit him away with a combo and then stopped him while he was flying away from the combo finisher. Oh, that was pretty amazing. So yeah, I like stop. I suppose, look, we'll break it down by offensive spell. Thunder's my most favourite. Advanced spell, stop's my most favourite. And healing spell, cure is my most favourite. So there's only cure and arrow. But like, I love how arrow worked in this game, and I think it's a travesty it got changed up ever since. Only buff spell in the game, and then they made it an offensive version of like, they just made it another thunder spell. They're like, oh yeah, no, we can just do a gust of wind around Sora as opposed to a lightning storm at a target. It's like, okay, great, cool. Don't really love that, but okay. So then we go on to Keyblades, and I've already said it, my favourite Keyblade is Oathkeeper. Love Oathkeeper. Kyrie gave it to us, it's our favourite. It just isn't the best Keyblade in the game, but it's my favourite Keyblade in the game. And I know I'm not using it right now, so it sounds really hypocritical, but I just needed the extra damage from Lionheart. The extra length and damage from Lionheart's the only reason I'm using it. But Oathkeeper is absolutely my favourite Keyblade. Favourite music, I've already said this as well, but Hollow Bastion, oh my god, 5/4 time, absolutely amazing. The battle theme as well, that's also bloody amazing too. The exploration of the world, oh well, okay, let's go into favourite world. Favourite world is probably also Hollow Bastion, but actually, yeah, no, it is. Hollow Bastion's my favourite. It's brilliant, it has like the climax of all the story, it's like all the revelations, all the everything. Just, it has everything. It has bubbles to freeze, it has princesses to save, it has a castle to climb, it has a library to read books in, it has amazing music, it has beautiful church-like, you know, chandeliers of, or stained glass of beautifulness. It's just amazing. So yeah, Hollow Bastion wins on music and the world in general. Oh, I didn't mention the Beast. The Beast is another Disney companion. He's forgetful. He basically just functions as a slower, more angry Goofy. But in terms of any of the fights we're with and we're in, doesn't help us much. Dragon Maleficent doesn't help. Yeah, sorry Beast, you're kind of forgettable. That's why I forgot him. I literally went through all the Disney helpers and I was like, Ariel's great. And then I just didn't even mention poor Beast. Oopsie daisy. Favourite summon? I mean, I've used Genie a lot, but from my childhood, always loved Tinkerbell. Oh, well, that's not fair. I love Bambi. No, Bambi's my favourite. The most useful is probably Tinkerbell in terms of, like, for newer players, you would be well able to, like, use Tinkerbell, keep yourself alive with regen and auto life. Like, Tinkerbell just does loads. She's a regen auto life effect. Brilliant. Like, the one I probably still didn't use as much of, but I used it loads more with the need for the special Heartless, is Dumbo. As in, he has a functional service that I appreciate. Do I ever use him for, like, boss fights or anything else? No. Genie is amazing. Like, Genie has proved his tenure. He, like, conjured a defender shield out of the ether. He, like, one-banged Maleficent Dragon. Like, Genie is just great and OP, and I love him. Always a good summon. But I do think Bambi just is my favourite. He's, like, the mage's best friend. You get to get really good drops from him. Like, Bambi's just brilliant, and you can use him, like, at any point in the game, and he's still able to do the whole farm for lucid crystals, farm for blaze gems, blaze whatever's, you know, just saves you from going to Atlantica. That alone is like a godsend. So love that deer. R.I.P. his mom. Very sad, but like, thanks for coming to drop MP Orbs of Goodness for our mage build, Sora. We appreciate it. What is next to talk about? I talked about my favourite world, my favourite music, favourite character, favourite spell, favourite Keyblade. Favourite Disney character. I could go least favourites. I've kind of already mentioned Donald in that, like, trio of three. And sorry, for the trio, I won't say that, like, Kyrie's my least favourite. I love Kyrie. Kyrie is an excellent character for what she just is for all the characters. She is, like, the reflection through which we see the other characters express themselves. So it's in Riku's want to save Kyrie that he turns to darkness, turns down the wrong path, and, like, that's why he's a tragic anti-hero, Riku is really. He just wants to save his friend Kyrie. He wants to restore her heart, and then just ends up falling into the wrong crowd, falling into the wrong, you know, area, and just Maleficent uses his want and love for her to corrupt him to darkness, whereas Sora, in just his pure wanting to save Kyrie, but like, since Kyrie is sort of in his heart anyway, he kind of has that resolve of like, well, this isn't what Kyrie would want. Even if you do save her, is this what she would have wanted to happen to her friends? Absolutely not. Like, is that, you know, in her wanting to leave the islands to explore the worlds, if it had been said, oh, Kyrie, if you do leave, your friends, one of your friends are going to turn to darkness and your other friends are going to have to fight against him, and they're all just going to end up, you know, fractured and not able to be friends anymore, and all these horrible things. I'm sure Kyrie would have been like, actually, yeah, I'm happy on the islands. I actually don't need to leave. I would have liked to go see it, but if it's at this cost, I don't want this cost to affect my friends, you know? So I won't say that, and like, this is what people say, like, oh, she's a damsel. She doesn't want to be. She legitimately, like, was, you know, put on ice. She was, like, you know, knocked unconscious or whatever for most of the game. But as soon as, like, she's awake, she wants to go rescue Riku. She wants to come with Sora. She wants to help him save his friend and save the worlds, etc., etc. Like, even when Donald and Goofy are there and they're like, Kairi, you need to leave, she's like, no, I do not want to leave my friends. And she's able to just step into the darkness, protect Sora's Heartless form, and turn him back into a human and restore his heart. So, like, she literally, all she would have wanted was just to learn an albit of magic spells from Donald, and she would have probably just had a little mage's staff and been using magic with Sora. But Sora was like, no, you'd be in my way, stay here. But, like, her character herself, outside of, like, what the game and plot demand of her, it's like she would have gone. She didn't want to stay. She wanted to help her friends, and I think I can't detract that from her. Least favourite Keyblade has to be Jungle King. I'm sorry, Tarzan. That thing gave me nightmares as a kid. It just looks like bones. It looks like bones to me. I know it probably isn't, but it just looks like bones. And it's just really horrifying, to be honest. And just little notification there. We got HP and MP up, so I think I was incorrect in saying that was the last we will ever see of an MP up. But I think this one actually is. I think the one we just got was actually the very final one. But however, just, you know, on MP watch, always want to show off when we get a new MP, you know. And other than that, we're now moving on to the final trial with the Rock Titan. But yeah, least favourite Keyblade is Jungle King. Looked like, you know, flesh on bone to me. The purple looked like sinew. It was really gross. Didn't like it. Was horrified by it, really. Anyway, least favourite spell, probably fire. It's just really underwhelming. And then I feel like when you get it, the fire spell actually helps the trick master. You know what I mean? Like, you get the fire spell and then you're put up against, fire enemies, so I can't use fire against them. Brilliant. And then I'm going to try use fire against the big boss that's like in the air, and I, you know, can't really hit it easily with the Keyblades. Maybe I just jump up and cast fire at it. Oh, I set the maracas on fire. Great. So yeah, I just feel like fire is very underutilized, as in it doesn't get its time to shine, whereas like Blizzard, you know, you get it in Wonderland when you're fighting all those different fire floaty guys, and it just is better implemented. But with that, that's going to be our episode, guys. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.